Hey everyone, welcome to Patriot Stillbox. So I give you my commentary on news today as reported by the Wall Street Journal. Well, first up, Iran has vowed their revenge, quote unquote, after General Soleimani was taken out, and I really think taking their declaration of wanting revenge is probably a poor decision. I mean, wasn't the whole reason why Soleimani was killed because they vowed their revenge? It just seems like a bad idea, right? I mean, first of all, they say like, we're gonna kill you, Americans. Trump's like, okay, we're gonna kill your general, and they're like, we're gonna kill you, America. Like, do they honestly think that declaring revenge is a good idea? And who knows? Maybe the World War III memes will become a description of real life events. Who knows? Maybe in 2040, people are like, Daddy, can you tell me a story about World War III? Sure, son. Well, a long time ago, Iran wouldn't stop being stupid. And then trails on from there. So yeah, the Iranians are calling for vengeance, and they do have a good chunk of forces. I like at a glance here, I can count at a glance here like the chart of how much military forces there are. I count about close to like around 1 million, give or take a few thousand, like just at a glance. They have like probably a total 1 million personnel or something like that. And then obviously more in reserves, and since it's a dictatorship, they can probably draft as many people as they want. So yeah, it's they have a lot of people, but the U.S. only has has like several. They have tens of thousands of troops in the Middle East, but 1.6 million personnel overall, like across the world, plus another 895,000 personnel and reserves. So the U.S. is, as far as manpower, as far as weapons development, etc. goes, the U.S. could easily win World War III. And if you want to check out the infographic show on YouTube, after watching this video, they actually have a video on like U.S. versus the world, who would win, and they decided that if no nuclear weapons were used, then the United States would win mainly because of the Navy. Like, I think the U.S. would probably, like in the weeks leading up to the war, move all the troops to the Middle East, and then secure the world's major trade routes with the Navy to sort of cut off the flow of oil to other countries, and essentially the U.S. would win by starving out other countries. That's how it would win. Because like the rest of the world doesn't possess enough like landing craft or troops based in Canada and Mexico to launch a home invasion of the U.S. But the U.S. could easily starve out the rest of the world because it does have those landing craft. And the Middle East, even if the rest of the world took back the Middle East, which it probably could, then it would still loot. Then the U.S. could burn up all the oil sites, or at least drain the oil before then. So yeah, the U.S. can easily win World War III, easily. And the next Iran article here is one saying that it sort of puts the U.S. at a turning point of like, are we going to go deeper into the Middle East? Is like the U.S. going to go deeper into the Middle East than it already is, if that's even possible? Or will the U.S. or will it start the U.S. pulling out? Because like tensions are pretty high between Iran and the U.S. now. There's two ways it can go up towards war or down towards U.S. pullout of troops. Either one could happen. I mean, Trump has said that he may consider leaving Iraq, so who knows? But it's generally agreed upon now that killing Soleimani was a good thing because he's a terrorist. But obviously, some people have their reservations about it, given that he was, I should say, a powerful individual, and killing him sort of did not go over the well with the Ayatollah Khomeini. So let's see. So it could hasten one prediction is it could lead to war because as the U.S. Iran gets their revenge, and then the U.S. declares war on Iran to punish them for taking revenge, or the U.S. could pull out more troops from the Middle East to try to de-escalate the conflict. So those are the two ways war could go. Likely, given the fact that the Middle East is oil and it's a strategic point in the world, given its proximity given the fact that it connects 3 continents and has the Suez Canal, U.S. troops will probably be there for the foreseeable future, which is probably a good idea, to be honest. I mean, even though the U.S. is energy sufficient now and could set its own oil prices lower by price controls, even if the rest of the world prices were going up due to OPEC, it's really a good idea for the U.S. to control the world oil supply. It gives us some leverage, And Mike Pompeo finally dispelled rumors of whether or not he's going to run for Senate. He's not. thankfully, because he's been a pretty good he's been a pretty good Secretary of State. Why get rid of him? And then, let's see. Over to the op-ed section, we have, let's see. We have one article about domestic politics entitled "Let Bloomberg Be Bloomberg," because Mike Bloomberg, he hasn't been in debate. It's unfortunately because of his decision to self-fund his campaign, and according to the Democratic debate rules, you can only participate in it, as I've said many times before. One of the requirements for participating in debate is you have to have X amount of donors from X amount of states, and they have to contribute X amount of money usually. Bloomberg has none of those, which is, I mean, he's taking a stand against, like, he's supposedly taking a stand against, like other people, buying him, quote unquote, like big corporate donors or big unions, big nonprofits donating to him and then controlling what he can do because, he owes them. So he doesn't owe anybody, but, unfortunately, he's not up on the debate stage, which, I mean, not that I want him to be president or anything, but I'm like, he should at least get a chance to speak. Like, maybe they can make an exception for him because he has enough money. But yeah, he's running. Like, the "Let Bloomberg Be Bloomberg" thing is coming up because like he spoke at a black church in New York City the other day, and he apologized for his use of the stop-and-frisk policy during his time as mayor. And then he called Al Sharpton later, and then Sharpton said that. He said, he told Sharpton and the church, I apologize, stop and frisk, I discriminate against blacks, that's kind of wrong with me. And Sharpton says, you can take more than one community, bro, to erase your record. And so that's the problem. Like, the problem with pandering to the political left and Democrats is that you can't pander enough. Like, there's no amount of, like Bloomberg has already committed his, quote-unquote, sin of stop and frisk. There's no, for them, there's no for Sharpton and other Democrats, there is no maximum amount of what Bloomberg can do to repent now for stop and frisk. And it's questionable whether he even should repent. Because stop and frisk, I mean, there are questions involved with it, like whether it violates people's personal liberties, but it has worked. And Bloomberg became mayor in 2002, and before then, previous mayors had, murder rates in New York City already plunged, due to tough on crime laws, and pretty much everybody's surprised, Bloomberg managed to make them plunge even farther. The murder rate says, for example, dropped from 649 in 2001, just before he took office, to his last year in office, 2013, it was only 335. That's a dramatic reduction. It's almost he almost cut the murder rate in half. And the incarceration rate in the city declined 39%. So that's pretty good too, because less crowded prisons means there's more room to put people who are actually dangerous in there, as opposed to just drug. I think the war on drugs, one of the main problems with it is that loads up federal prisons and state prisons with all these drug addicts, when you really should but that means you're running out of room for the people who actually are dangerous, like murderers and whatnot. Drug addicts, they've obviously committed a crime. I'm not saying they shouldn't be incarcerated, because the law says they're crooks, but really we're running out of space because of the war on drugs. So maybe we should relax some of the rules or build more prisons. But at any rate, currently the war on drugs is the single biggest reason for why the U.S. has the most people incarcerated in the world, and why our prisons are overcrowded. But stop and frisk works, and it's not intentionally discriminating against minorities. What stop and frisk is it's a policy implemented by police departments that allows cops to if they see anyone suspicious, they can frisk them, pat them down, see if they have any weapons or drugs, and that is a good policy. I mean, some people say it violates the Fourth Amendment because unreasonable searches and seizures. But if someone's acting all suspicious, you see a guy kind of looking around, hood up, just sketchily wandering around a back alley, and a cop may have good reason to see if they're a bad guy, see if they got drugs or guns or something, or if they're about to go get some drugs or guns that are illegal. So stop and frisk it's a good policy on principle because it allows the police. It's not an unreasonable search and seizure. And the reason for it targeting minorities disproportionately is that, unfortunately, like unfortunately for minorities, a lot of violent crime is committed by minorities. Blacks commit based on like percentages, blacks commit more crimes than whites. Like 50% of murderers are black, and they vote, and typically they're murdering other blacks. So it's not like black and white crime. It's usually crime is like it's often like for violent crimes it's usually in the same, like members of one race kill members of the same race. This is how it works. And so like you can't really bash Bloomberg for like disproportionately targeting minorities when minorities are the main people who are actually committing the crimes in the first place, and also the main people that witnesses say committed crimes. And so the police have reasonable cause to suspect people. And finally, Bloomberg should, instead of apologizing for his record, he should be campaigning on it, like saying, like, look, at stop and frisk, they probably saved a lot of minorities because, according to one estimate, in 2013, he wrote an op-ed for the Washington Post saying that, New York had the same murder rate as the District of Columbia during his time as mayor. That over 21,000 more people would have been killed. So like 90% of them would have been black and Hispanic. So far from like disproportionately targeting minorities, he probably saved a lot of them. So he shouldn't have been apologizing. He should have just been saying, "You're welcome. I dramatically lowered the murder rate. You're welcome." And then finally, there's an article entitled "Buttigieg War and the quote Shortest Way Home." I say quote because that's the title of a book he wrote, and he really did take the shortest way home. Like he often campaigns on his military record. Like the media fawns over him. His political prospects dramatically increase. His opponents kind of silence him because it's sort of like because typically it seems like in presidential campaigns criticizing the candidate's military records are just almost like their military record's almost sacrosanct, so you can't target. So it's like considered almost a sin to target that. But apparently it doesn't bar them for targeting Tulsi Gabbard's military record or targeting her, even though she campaigns on that. But maybe there's a double standard there. So Buttigieg did really take the shortest way home, and his military record isn't as impressive as he makes it out to be. I mean, yeah, he served in the Navy. Yes, he served in Afghanistan, but it wasn't all that glamorous. First of all, he took he took what this article calls the little used shortcut in the military to become a naval officer, which is known as a direct commission in the reserves. So instead of going to Annapolis or for 4 years or going to a regular college and taking the ROTC program to get in the for 4 years, which are both two options that I've actually considered when I was looking at colleges because I was thinking about joining the Navy. But instead of taking those options, what he did was he skipped all of that by joining the reserves and then got himself commissioned from the reserves. And that's actually how, on a side note that the article mentions, that's how Hunter Biden, Joe Biden's now famous son, that's how he got in the Navy. He was in the Navy for a month because he failed the drug test. I suppose being found with cocaine does get you kicked out of the military, and it's good reason to do so. Yeah, 1 month in the military, he was kicked out. Not Buttigieg. He stayed in for a while. But yeah, he was assigned to doing not in the he wasn't in combat like he says ever. What he did was for a while he had a desk job. First of all, I mean nothing wrong with a desk job in the military, but I'm if you're gonna campaign on your military record, at least be a little more honestly. Instead of saying I was a combat troop, you should say I pushed pencils at a desk in a desk in where is it? Yeah, Great Lakes, Illinois. That's not that all glamorous, but it's a military job, and it says he also said, and I quote, "I have the experience of being commanded to war zone by an American president," end quote. Actually, he specifically asked to go to Afghanistan. No one commanded him to go to Afghanistan. He said, "Hey, can I go to Afghanistan?" And he didn't even do combat there. He ferried other staffers around in an SUV. So yeah, Mr. Buttigieg, if you're watching this, I want you to be a little more honest about your military record. I'm not dissing your record at all. Good on you for joining the military. Really, I commend anyone who joins the military. That's a tremendous sacrifice to give up that much of your life in service of your country. But you could at least be a little honest about what you did in the military. That's all I got for you in this episode of Patriot Soapbox. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more great daily content.